The next morning brought trouble for Juan. Director Choi Wonho called him to the main office before breakfast. The director was a thin man with gray hair and worried eyes. He did not look happy. "Sit down, Juan," Director Choi said, pointing to a chair. "We need to talk about what happened last night." Juan sat down and tried to look calm, but his heart was beating fast. He knew this conversation would not go well. "The security cameras recorded everything," the director continued. "Two large alien predators came right up to your laboratory window. They stayed there for over an hour, studying our buildings and equipment. Park Minji thinks they were planning an attack." "I don't think they wanted to attack," Juan said carefully. "They seemed curious, not aggressive." Director Choi leaned forward. "Curious? Juan, these are wild animals on an alien planet. They could carry diseases we don't understand. They could be dangerous in ways we can't imagine. We have protocols for a reason. But what if they're more than just animals?" Juan asked. "What if they're intelligent?" "Even if they are intelligent, that makes them more dangerous, not less," the director replied. "Smart predators are the worst kind. I'm ordering you to stay away from the forest perimeter. Work only in the safe zone from now on." Juan felt his chest tighten. "Sir, this could be the most important discovery in human history. We should try to understand them, not hide from them." "My job is to keep this colony safe," Director Choi said firmly, "not to make history. You will follow orders, or you will be sent back to Earth on the next transport ship." After the meeting, Juan walked slowly back to his laboratory. His research partner, Kim Tae-hyun, was waiting for him with a cup of coffee and a worried expression. "I heard about your meeting with the director," Tae-hyun said. "Are you okay?" Juan took the coffee and sat down heavily. "He wants me to stop all research near the forest edge. He thinks the aliens are too dangerous." "Maybe he's right," Tae-hyun said gently. "Those creatures were huge, Juan. The mother could have broken through that window if she wanted to." "But she didn't want to," Juan argued. "She just wanted to look, to understand." "There was intelligence in her eyes, Tae-hyun." "Real intelligence," Tae-hyun shook his head. "You're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. These are alien predators, not lost pets." But Juan could not forget those crystal eyes or the way the mother had studied human technology. Every instinct told him these beings were special, important in ways the colony did not understand. That afternoon, Juan made a decision that could end his career. Instead of working in the safe zone, he walked to the forest edge where he had first found the injured baby. He brought his portable equipment and set up a small research station near the same rocks. He did not have to wait long. The baby appeared first, stepping carefully out of the purple trees. It looked healthy now, its wounds completely healed. When it saw Juan, it made excited clicking sounds and ran toward him. Behind the baby came the mother, moving with that same flowing grace. She stopped at the tree line and watched Juan carefully. Her green eyes showed no fear, only caution and curiosity. Juan sat down on the ground and placed his backpack beside him. Slowly, he pulled out some protein bars and broke them into pieces. The baby came close immediately, remembering the food that had saved its life. While the baby ate, the mother approached step by step. She was even more magnificent up close. Her fur shimmered with colors that had no names. Deep blues that became purple, then green, then gold. Her muscles moved like liquid under her skin. When she was close enough to touch, the mother sat down and studied Juan's equipment. She looked at his tablet computer, his sample containers, and his measuring tools with obvious interest. Then she did something that amazed him. She reached into the forest and brought back a crystal formation unlike anything Juan had ever seen. It was clear like diamond but glowed with soft inner light. She placed it carefully next to his equipment, then stepped back and watched his reaction. Juan picked up the crystal and examined it. It was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse with energy. This was not just a pretty rock. It was something advanced, possibly even technological. "Thank you," Juan said softly. The mother tilted her head at the sound of his voice. Then she made a series of clicks and purrs that sounded almost like language. She pointed at the crystal, then at Juan, then back at the crystal. Juan understood. This was a gift, payment for helping her baby. But it was more than that. It was an attempt at communication, a way of showing that she recognized his intelligence just as he recognized hers. Over the next hour, something wonderful happened. The mother began copying Juan's actions. When he picked up a leaf to examine it, she did the same. When he used his tools to measure soil temperature, she watched carefully, and then pointed to other areas where he should take measurements. She was teaching him about her world while learning about his methods. This was not animal behavior. This was scientific collaboration between two intelligent species. The baby played nearby, bringing Juan interesting objects from the forest. Colorful flowers, unusual stones, and seed pods that glowed in the shadows. Each gift showed trust and friendship growing between them. As the sun began to set, Juan knew he had to return to the colony. The mother seemed to understand. She stood up and made a complex series of sounds to her baby. The little one came running and touched Juan's hand gently with its paw. Then the mother did something that made Juan's breath catch. She placed her large paw over his hand, covering both his hand and her baby's paw. The touch was warm and gentle despite her obvious strength. For a moment, three very different beings connected across the vast gap between species. When Juan returned to the colony that evening, he was carrying more than rock and plant samples. He had the crystal gift from the mother and a head full of observations that challenged everything humans thought about alien intelligence. But he also carried a secret that felt heavier with each step. Director Choi had forbidden contact with the aliens. If anyone discovered what Juan was doing, he would be sent back to Earth in disgrace. That night, Juan sat in his laboratory studying the crystal. It contained materials that did not appear in any geological survey of the planet. The energy readings were unlike anything in human science. This simple gift proved that the mother species possessed knowledge far beyond what anyone had imagined. Juan made detailed notes about everything he had observed. The mother's intelligence, her teaching behavior, her obvious curiosity about human technology, the baby's playfulness and trust, the gifts they had shared, and the connection he had felt when they touched. As he worked, Juan realized he was documenting the first peaceful contact between humans and an intelligent alien species. But he was doing it alone in secret, against direct orders from his superiors. The question that kept him awake that night was simple but terrifying. What would happen when the rest of the colony learned the truth? Would they see the opportunity for friendship and learning that Juan saw? Or would they see only danger and decide to drive these magnificent beings away? Looking at the glowing crystal on his desk, Juan made a promise to himself and to the aliens who had trusted him. He would find a way to protect them and help others understand that they were not monsters to be feared, but teachers waiting to share their knowledge with humanity. The crystal pulsed softly in the darkness, as if responding to his thoughts. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, Juan held proof that two species could communicate, learn from each other, and begin building something that had never existed before, true friendship between the stars. 3 days passed since Juan helped the injured creature. He tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept wandering to those crystal eyes and rainbow fur. Every time he went into the forest to collect samples, he looked for signs of the little alien. He found nothing. The mining colony worked around the clock. Giant machines dug deep holes in the ground, searching for rare metals that Earth needed. The noise never stopped, drilling, digging, and the rumble of heavy trucks moving rocks and dirt. Juan often worked late in his laboratory, studying the soil and plant samples he collected each day. On the third night, Juan stayed later than usual. The lab was quiet except for the soft hum of his computer and the distant sound of mining equipment. He was looking at dirt samples under his microscope when the motion sensors started beeping. The warning system was designed to detect large animals that might threaten the colony. Most of the time, it picked up harmless plant eaters that wandered too close to the fence. But tonight felt different. The sensors were going crazy, beeping faster and louder than Juan had ever heard. He switched on the security cameras that watched the forest around the colony. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Dark trees swayed in the night wind. Then, movement caught his eye. Something was walking toward the colony from the deep forest. Juan adjusted the camera and zoomed in. His heart nearly stopped. The small creature he had helped was there, moving carefully through the trees. But it was not alone. Behind it walked something magnificent and terrifying. The adult was twice the size of an earth tiger, with the same rainbow fur that shifted colors in the moonlight. But where the baby had seemed cute and harmless, this creature was clearly a powerful predator. Long muscles moved under its shining coat. Its eyes glowed like green fire in the darkness. This had to be the mother. She moved with a grace that took Juan's breath away. Every step was silent and perfect. Her head turned from side to side, watching for danger. But she was not hunting. She was following her baby, who was leading her straight toward the human colony. Juan's communicator buzzed. Park Minji, the security chief, was calling him. "Juan, are you seeing this?" Her voice was tight with worry. "We have 2 large unknowns approaching the perimeter. I'm about to activate the defense systems." "Wait," Juan said quickly. "Don't shoot. I think they're just curious." "Curious?" Minji's voice got higher. "That big one could kill a person with one swipe. I'm following protocol. Please, just give me a minute to watch them," Juan begged. "They haven't shown any aggressive behavior." On the camera, the baby creature had reached the edge of the forest. It looked back at its mother, then continued toward the colony buildings. The mother followed, but more slowly. She was being careful, testing the air with her nose and listening for threats. The baby led its mother directly to Juan's laboratory. It stopped at the big window and looked inside. Even through the camera, Juan could see recognition in those crystal eyes. The creature had come looking for him. The mother approached the window and peered through the transparent metal. For a moment, human and alien stared at each other across the barrier. The mother's green eyes held intelligence that made Juan shiver. This was no ordinary animal. This was a thinking, reasoning being. "Juan, I'm seeing them right outside your lab," Minji said through the communicator. "Get away from the window and seal the room." But Juan could not move. The mother tilted her head, studying him. Her expression was not angry or threatening. She looked curious, maybe even grateful. The baby pressed against the window and made soft clicking sounds. The mother examined the building with interest. She looked at the lights, the cameras, and the equipment visible through the window. Her nose touched the glass, leaving a small mark. Then she sat back on her powerful legs and continued watching Juan. "They're not attacking," Juan told Minji. "The big one is just looking at me." "That doesn't mean she won't attack," Minji replied. "Unknown aliens are extremely dangerous. Come away from the window now." Other colonists started gathering in the security center. Juan could hear excited voices through the communicator. Someone mentioned calling Director Choi Wonho. Others talked about driving the creatures away with noisemakers. But Juan felt no fear as he looked at the mother through the window. Something in her eyes reminded him of human mothers he had known. There was love there and protectiveness and intelligence. She had come to see the person who helped her baby. The mother stood up and walked around the building, always staying in sight of the cameras. She seemed to be studying human construction, the way the walls were built and how the doors worked. When she returned to the window, she placed one large paw against the glass. The baby did the same thing, pressing its small paw next to its mother's. They looked at Juan and made soft sounds to each other. It was clearly communication, though Juan could not understand the meaning. "This is incredible," Juan whispered. "They're trying to communicate." "They're predators," Minji said firmly. "Dangerous ones. I'm activating the sonic barriers to drive them away." "No, wait," Juan said. "What if they're not dangerous? What if they just want to thank me for helping the baby?" "Thank you?" Minji sounded shocked. "Juan, these are alien animals. They don't have emotions like humans." But looking into the mother's eyes, Juan was not so sure. He saw something there that looked very much like human emotion. Gratitude, curiosity, and something else. A desire to understand. The mother and baby stayed by the window for nearly an hour. They watched Juan work and seemed fascinated by his equipment. Sometimes the mother would point with her paw at something that interested her. The baby would look where she pointed, as if learning from her. Finally, the mother stood up and looked directly at Juan one last time. She made a sound that was almost like a purr, but deeper and richer. Then she turned and walked back toward the forest. The baby followed, but kept looking back at the window. As they disappeared into the trees, Juan felt a strange sadness. He wanted to follow them, to learn more about these amazing creatures, but he knew that was impossible. The colony had strict rules about contact with alien life. Still, something had changed. These beings were not just animals. They were intelligent, emotional, and curious about humans. The mother had come to see who helped her child, and she had studied human technology with clear interest. Juan spent the rest of the night writing notes about what he had observed. The behavior he witnessed challenged everything humans thought they knew about alien life on this planet. These creatures might be far more advanced than anyone realized. As dawn broke over the colony, Juan made a decision that would change his life forever. He was going to learn more about these beings no matter what the rules said. He had to understand who they really were and what they wanted. The crystal eyes had spoken to him without words. They had said that something important was about to happen, something that would connect two very different species in ways no one could imagine. 1 week had passed since Juan first made contact with the alien mother and her baby. Every day he met them at the forest edge. Every day they taught each other new things. The mother, who Juan now called Nayeli, showed him plants that could heal wounds and crystals that generated clean energy. In return, Juan shared human knowledge about mathematics and science. The baby, who he named Coda, had become completely comfortable with Juan. It would run to greet him each morning and play with his equipment while Nayeli watched with what looked like amusement. The bond between them grew stronger each day, but Juan knew the secret contact could not continue forever. Other colonists were asking questions about his long absences. Director Choi was becoming suspicious. Worse, the mining operations were expanding toward the area where Juan met his alien friends. On the 7th day, everything changed. Nayeli appeared at their usual meeting spot, but she was not alone. Behind her came an older male of her species, larger and more imposing than even Nayeli. His fur was darker, with silver streaks that showed his age. His eyes held ancient wisdom and careful judgment. Nayeli made complex sounds to the older male, gesturing toward Juan. The male studied the human for a long moment, then approached slowly. When he was close enough to touch, he placed his paw on Juan's forehead. Suddenly, Juan's mind filled with images and thoughts that were not his own. He saw the history of this world through alien eyes. He learned that Nayeli's people called themselves the Vorathi, and they were far more than the simple animals humans believed them to be. The Vorathi had once built great cities that covered continents. They had developed technology that could heal any disease and provide unlimited clean energy. They had explored the stars and made contact with other intelligent species throughout the galaxy, but they had also learned the dangers of advancing too quickly. They had seen how technology could destroy the very worlds it was meant to improve. After thousands of years of progress, the Vorathi had made a choice that shocked Juan to his core. They had given up their machines and returned to nature. The cities were gone, grown over by forests. The starships were buried deep underground. The Vorathi now lived simple lives in harmony with their world, but they had kept their knowledge. Every crystal formation, every glowing plant, every seemingly natural wonder was actually advanced biotechnology that worked with nature instead of against it. The older male, whose name was Kiros, showed Juan even more incredible truths. The Vorathi had been watching the human colony since it arrived. They had seen the mining machines tearing up the land and the pollution spreading into the water. They had debated whether to reveal themselves or drive the humans away. Most Vorathi believed humans were too young and dangerous to be trusted with advanced knowledge. They had seen other species destroy themselves with technology they were not ready to understand. The plan was to wait and watch, hoping humans would learn wisdom before they destroyed their new world. But then Juan had saved Coda. That single act of kindness toward a helpless creature had changed everything. It proved that at least some humans possessed the compassion necessary to use power responsibly. The Vorathi had decided to make contact, to test whether humanity was ready for a larger role in the galaxy. Kiros removed his paw from Juan's forehead, and the flow of images stopped. Juan staggered, overwhelmed by what he had learned. The universe was so much bigger and more complex than humans imagined, and now somehow he had become the bridge between two very different species. Nayeli made gentle sounds and rubbed against Juan's shoulder, offering comfort. Coda pressed close to his other side, sensing his distress. These simple gestures of friendship meant more to Juan than all the advanced technology he had just learned about. But Kairos was not finished. He led Juan deeper into the forest than he had ever gone before. They walked for hours past trees that seemed to glow with inner light and streams that ran clearer than crystal. Finally, they reached a hidden valley that took Juan's breath away. The Vorathi city was unlike anything from human imagination. Buildings grew from living trees, their walls breathing and pulsing with life. Gardens floated in the air, supported by invisible energy fields. Waterfalls flowed upward, carrying nutrients to plants that hung like stars in the sky. Hundreds of Vorathi moved through this living city. Adults taught their young how to shape plants with their minds. Elders sat in circles, sharing knowledge through touch. The same way Kiros had shared with Juan, children played games that bent light and sound in impossible ways. This was not primitive, this was technology so advanced that it appeared magical. The Varathi had learned to work with the forces of life itself, creating wonders that human science could barely imagine. But not all the Varathi were happy to see a human in their secret city. A fierce-looking female with scars across her face approached Kairos and spoke angrily in their clicking language. Her name was Zephyr, and she clearly did not trust humans. Zephyr showed Juan images of what human mining was doing to the planet. Poisoned rivers, dead forests, and animals fleeing from the noise and destruction. She argued that humans were a disease that would spread across the galaxy if they were not stopped here and now. Other Varathi gathered around, taking sides in the debate. Some agreed with Zephyr that humans were too dangerous. Others, led by Kiros, believed that contact with a compassionate human like Juan might help both species learn from each other. The argument continued for hours, with Juan understanding little of the language but feeling the tension clearly. Finally, Kairos called for silence and spoke directly to Juan through their mental connection. The Varathi would give humanity one chance. They would share some of their knowledge and see how humans used it. If humans proved they could be wise and responsible, the friendship would continue. If they proved destructive and selfish, the Varathi would disappear forever and humans would be left alone on a dead world. The weight of this responsibility settled on Juan's shoulders like a mountain. The future of two species now depended on his ability to convince other humans to change their ways. He thought of Director Choi's suspicion, of the mining machines that never stopped digging, of corporate executives on Earth who cared only about profits. How could one scientist change the minds of an entire species? But then Coda ran up to him and pressed a small crystal into his hand. The crystal was warm and pulsed with gentle light. In that simple gift, Juan found his answer. Change would not come from forcing humans to be different. It would come from showing them the beauty and wisdom that was possible when species worked together, instead of against each other. Nayeli touched his arm gently, her crystal eyes full of hope and trust. She believed in him, even when he did not believe in himself. That faith gave him the strength to accept the challenge that would determine the fate of both their worlds. As the sun set over the living city, Juan made a promise to the Varathi and to himself. He would find a way to bring humans and Varathi together in peace. He would prove that his species could grow beyond their destructive habits and become worthy partners in the vast community of intelligent life. The crystals in the city began to glow brighter as darkness fell, turning the entire valley into a wonderland of living light. Looking at this beauty that technology and nature had created together, Juan felt hope growing in his heart. If two such different species could find common ground, perhaps there was hope for the galaxy after all. 2 weeks after Juan first entered the Varathi city, everything began to fall apart. News had reached Earth about unusual energy readings on planet Kepler 442b. Corporate executives were coming to investigate, and Juan knew they would not share his peaceful intentions. The first sign of trouble came when Director Choi called an emergency meeting. All colony personnel gathered in the main hall as a woman in an expensive business suit took the stage. Her name was Yang Sun-hee, and she was the CEO of the mining corporation that owned the colony. "We have received reports of valuable energy sources on this planet," Yang announced. "Sources that our surveys missed. I want every square kilometer searched and cataloged. We will find these energy deposits and extract them for the benefit of humanity." Juan felt his heart sink. The energy readings were coming from Varathi biotechnology, the living crystals, the floating gardens, the city that breathed with life. If the corporation found the hidden valley, they would destroy everything to mine the power sources. After the meeting, Juan tried to speak with Yang privately. "Ma'am, I believe those energy readings might be coming from intelligent alien technology. We should approach with caution." Yang looked at him with cold eyes. Alien technology would be even more valuable than natural resources. "If these aliens have energy sources we can use, we will take them. If they resist, we will remove them. But what if we could learn from them instead?" Juan asked desperately. "What if they could teach us better ways to generate energy without destroying planets?" "Learning takes too long," Yang replied. "Taking is faster and more profitable. You will help our survey teams locate these energy sources, or you will be replaced by someone who will." That night, Juan met with Nayeli and Kairos at their usual spot in the forest. Through their mental connection, he shared what was happening. The Varathi leader's response filled him with dread. If humans tried to invade the hidden valley, the Varathi would defend themselves. They had weapons that could turn the mining machines into dust and barriers that could keep humans away forever. But using such power would mean abandoning their peaceful way of life and becoming the very thing they had chosen to reject, a species that solved problems through force. Worse, other Varathi factions were already calling for action. Zephyr and her followers wanted to drive all humans off the planet before they could do more damage. The debate that had once been civil was becoming angry and desperate. There must be another way, Juan said aloud, though he knew the Varathi could read his thoughts. Some solution that saves both our species. Nayeli moved closer to him, her warm presence comforting in the growing darkness. Through their connection, she showed him images of what she wanted. Humans and Varathi working together, healing the damage done to the planet, exploring the stars as partners instead of enemies. But she also showed him what would happen if that dream failed. The Varathi would disappear into deep space, taking their knowledge with them. Humans would be left alone on a dying world, having destroyed their only chance at wisdom. The galaxy would become a darker place without either species to bring light to it. As they sat together in the forest, Nayeli suddenly stood up and faced Juan directly. She made a series of complex sounds, and Kairos translated through their mental link. Nayeli was proposing something that had never been done before in Varathi history, a permanent bond between human and Varathi minds. The bonding process would change both of them forever. Juan would gain access to Varathi knowledge and abilities, while Nayeli would understand human emotions and motivations completely. They would become living proof that the two species could unite successfully, but the process was dangerous. Sometimes the minds could not merge properly, leaving both beings damaged or dead. Even if it worked, they would never be quite the same again. They would be something new, part human, part Varathi, belonging fully to neither species yet representing the best of both. Kairos urged caution, but Nayeli had made her decision. She believed this was the only way to save both their peoples. By becoming bonded with Juan, she could help him convince other humans to choose cooperation over conquest. Juan looked into Nayeli's crystal eyes and saw the love and trust she felt for him. This magnificent being was willing to risk everything to save both their species. How could he do less? Yes, he said simply. The bonding ritual took place in the heart of the hidden city, with hundreds of Varathi watching in amazement. Even Zephyr came to witness this unprecedented event. Juan and Nayeli sat facing each other while Kairos and other elders created a circle of living light around them. Nayeli placed her paws on either side of Juan's head, and he felt her mind touching his. At first there was confusion and pain, as two very different forms of consciousness tried to merge. Human thoughts and Varathi emotions swirled together in chaos, but gradually harmony emerged. Juan began to understand the deep love Varathi felt for their living world. Nayeli learned about human dreams of exploring the stars and building better lives for their children. Their minds found common ground in their shared desire to create rather than destroy. When the bonding was complete, Juan felt changed in ways he could not describe. He could sense the life force in every plant and animal around him. His understanding of physics and biology had expanded beyond human limitations. But most importantly, he felt Nayeli's presence in his mind, not controlling him but supporting him with her strength and wisdom. Nayeli had changed too. She now understood human fears and ambitions in ways that would help her communicate with other colonists. Together, they were more than either could be alone. The next day brought the crisis Juan had feared. Yang Sunhee arrived with military equipment and armed soldiers. She planned to locate the alien energy sources by force and take control of them for corporate. But she had not counted on facing a human who carried Varathi wisdom and a Varathi who understood human nature. When Yang's forces surrounded Juan at his laboratory, they found him accompanied by Nayeli and dozens of other Varathi who had chosen to reveal themselves. The sight of so many magnificent aliens stopped the soldiers in their tracks. These were clearly intelligent beings, not animals to be swept aside. Yang ordered her troops to capture them, but Juan stepped forward with Nayeli at his side. "These are the Varathi," he announced, his voice carrying new authority. "They are an ancient civilization that has chosen to live in harmony with nature. They offer to share their knowledge with humanity, but only if we prove worthy of their trust. Yang laughed harshly. I don't negotiate with aliens. Capture them all. But when the soldiers tried to move forward, they found their weapons would not work. The Vorathi had created an energy field that disabled all harmful technology. Yang's advanced equipment became useless metal and plastic. At the same time, Nayeli shared her new understanding of human psychology with the other Vorathi. They began communicating directly with the soldiers' minds, showing them visions of what cooperation could accomplish. Clean energy that would never run out. Medicine that could cure any disease. Technology that worked with nature instead of destroying it. One by one, the soldiers lowered their weapons. They had seen the possibility of a better future, and they wanted to be part of it rather than destroy it. Yang tried to maintain control, but her authority crumbled when her own people turned against her. The colonists had seen what Juan and Nayeli represented. Hope for a future where humans and aliens could work together as equals. Director Choi, who had initially feared the aliens, now stepped forward to speak with Kiros. Through Juan's translation, they began planning a new kind of colony, one where humans would learn Vorathi wisdom while teaching their own knowledge in return. The transformation was not immediate or easy. Many humans remained suspicious of the aliens, and some Vorathi still believed humans were too dangerous to trust. But with Juan and Nayeli as bridges between the species, understanding grew day by day. A year later, the colony had become something unprecedented in human history. Humans and Vorathi worked side by side, healing the damage done by mining and creating new forms of technology that enhanced life instead of destroying it. Children of both species played together in gardens that floated in the air. Human scientists learned to grow buildings from living trees, while Vorathi engineers studied human mathematics and physics. The boundary between the two species began to blur as friendship replaced fear. Juan often stood in the living city at sunset, watching human and Vorathi children chase each other through gardens of light. Nayeli would join him, her presence in his mind a constant source of strength and joy. Coda, now grown into a magnificent young adult, had become a teacher who helped human children understand Vorathi ways. The bond between Juan and Nayeli had proven that different species could become one without losing what made them unique. They were living proof that the universe was big enough for all kinds of life, and that diversity made everything stronger. As the stars appeared in the alien sky, Juan felt gratitude for the simple act of kindness that had started everything. Feeding a hungry alien cub had led to the first true alliance between species in human history. It had shown that love and compassion were universal languages that could bridge any gap. Li Huan wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the thick alien forest. The trees on planet Kepler 442b were unlike anything on Earth. They grew tall and twisted, with purple leaves that glowed softly in the dim sunlight. Strange sounds came from the forest. Clicks, chirps, and calls from creatures he had never seen. Juan worked as a scientist at the human mining colony. His job was to study the soil and plants on this strange world. Every day he walked into the forest to collect samples. The other workers thought he was crazy for going so far from the safe zone, but Juan loved discovering new things. Today felt different. The forest was too quiet. Usually small creatures moved through the bushes and birds sang in the trees. But now everything was silent. Even the wind seemed to have stopped blowing. Juan knelt down and dug a small hole with his metal tool. He put the dirt into a plastic container and labeled it with the date. As he stood up, he heard a sound that made his heart race. It was weak and sad, like a baby crying. The sound came from behind a large rock covered in blue moss. Juan walked slowly toward it, his hands shaking a little. The company rules said never to touch any alien animals. They could be dangerous or carry diseases. But the crying sound pulled at his heart. Behind the rock, Juan found something that took his breath away. A small creature lay on its side, breathing heavily. It looked like a mix between a tiger and a panther, but its fur changed colors like oil on water. When the sunlight hit it, the fur showed blues, greens, and purples. The creature was about the size of a house cat, with crystal-clear eyes that seemed to hold intelligence. Blood covered its left leg and deep scratches marked its side. Something had attacked it, probably one of the larger predators that lived deeper in the forest. The little creature looked at Juan with those strange, beautiful eyes. Fear and pain filled its gaze, but also something else. Hope. Juan knew he should walk away. The rules existed for good reasons. Contact with alien life could cause problems for both species, but looking at this hurt, hungry baby, he could not leave it to die. He reached into his backpack and pulled out his emergency food. The protein bars were made to keep humans alive in dangerous situations. He broke off a small piece and held it out to the creature. At first it tried to move away, but it was too weak. The smell of food made it stop trying to escape. Slowly, carefully, Juan moved closer. The creature watched his every move, ready to run if needed. When Juan was close enough, he placed the food near its mouth. The little alien sniffed it, then began to eat with desperate hunger. It had not eaten in days. While the creature ate, Juan pulled out his medical kit. He had basic supplies for treating human injuries, but they might work on alien wounds too. He cleaned the blood from its leg and side with antiseptic wipes. The creature made soft sounds of pain but did not try to bite or scratch him. The wounds were deep but not life-threatening. Juan wrapped them with bandages, working as gently as he could. The creature's fur was softer than anything he had ever touched. It felt warm and seemed to vibrate slightly, like a cat purring but much quieter. As Juan worked, the creature began to relax. The fear in its eyes changed to curiosity. It watched him with intelligence that seemed almost human. Sometimes it made soft clicking sounds as if trying to talk to him. When Juan finished treating the wounds, he gave the creature more food. It ate everything he offered, then looked at him with what seemed like gratitude. The creature tried to stand up and took a few shaky steps. The bandages held and the legs supported its weight. Juan knew he had to let it go. Keeping an alien animal would break every rule the colony had. Besides, this creature belonged in the wild, not in a human research lab. He gathered his tools and stepped back, giving it space to leave. The creature looked at him for a long moment. Then it did something unexpected. It walked up to Juan and gently touched his hand with its small paw. The touch was warm and soft. For just a second, Juan felt a strange connection to this alien being. Then the creature turned and walked into the forest, moving slowly but steadily. Juan watched until it disappeared among the purple trees. He felt good about helping it, but also worried. Had he done the right thing? What if the creature came back? What if it told others about him? As he walked back to the colony, Juan thought about those crystal eyes. There had been intelligence there, real understanding. This was not just an animal, it was something more. The thought both excited and scared him. Back at the research station, Juan did not tell anyone about what happened. He logged his soil samples and wrote his daily report. But all evening he thought about the little creature. He wondered if it was safe, if its wounds were healing, if it had found its family. That night, Juan dreamed of crystal eyes and rainbow fur. In his dream, the creature spoke to him in a language made of clicks and purrs. He could not understand the words, but he felt their meaning. They spoke of gratitude, of connection, of something important that was about to change. When morning came, Juan returned to his work. But part of his mind stayed in the forest, wondering about the creature he had saved. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness would soon change everything, not just for him, but for all of humanity.